Hey everyone, what's going on? So the last few days have been documenting a whole lot about king symbolism, and I documented how it's connected to LeBron James, who was the character It for Halloween. And It, of course, comes from Stephen King. And they just had the new movie It that came out before the NBA season began this year. But in previous years, I've documented about how the Halloween costumes of the Cleveland Cavaliers are really important. Just before the Cavaliers won the NBA Finals in 2016, LeBron James was Prince, the singer, and Kevin Love was Jackie Moon from the movie Semi Pro. And then we had the death of Prince, the singer, who died on the night of a full moon, and he also died on Queen Elizabeth's birthday, and it was super synced up to the Cleveland Cavaliers winning the NBA Finals, who won on the anniversary of the real King James's birthday. You know, think about it. King James wins the NBA Finals on the real King James's birthday, and it was synced up to the death of Prince, who died on Queen Elizabeth II's birthday. If Queen Elizabeth dies, her son Prince Charles will become the king, King Charles III, and a cavalier. If you look it up in history, the word cavalier comes from a follower of King Charles. So there's lots of royal symbolism that has been going on. And, LeBron, check out some links in the description if you don't understand what I'm talking about in regards to numbers. But this practice of gematria, the practice of coding numbers into words and phrases, literally used every single day in our mainstream media. Our sports leagues absolutely scripted this way. In this game one, LeBron James scored 51 points, and the Cavaliers scored 114 points. And in gematria, LeBron James, the small way, equals 51, and the big way, he equals 114. And remember, when they won in 2016, it was the first time that a sports championship was won in Cleveland for 51 years. And LeBron James equals 51. Cleveland equals 51. Cleveland Cavs equal 51. They play at Quicken Loans. Quicken Loans equals 51. You know, even after they won, they visited the White House the same day Donald Trump visited the White House after winning the election on November 10th, the day that leaves 51 days in the year. And the reason I bring up Halloween yet again is because in 2016, after they won, LeBron James dressed up as Jerome from the TV show Lawrence with Martin Lawrence. He was Jerome. That TV show is all about the channel 51, and Martin Lawrence was 51 years old when they won the NBA Finals that year. So LeBron James was Jerome, synced up to the number 51 that they won by. And this year, in 2017 for Halloween, LeBron James was It, and Kevin Love just so happened to be Sting, and he was Sting the wrestler, right? Sting was in the NWO, the Wolfpack NWO, and I've been saying how everything is connected back to 2015, and in 2015 in WrestleMania, they brought Sting into the WWE for the first time, and the NWO, who he also feuded with at the beginning, came out and helped him, and he ended up losing to Triple H. So, and Kevin Love wore the red and the black that was Sting in the Wolfpack when he was in the NWO. And we've recently been getting the stories of George H.W. Bush being hospitalized, and George H.W. Bush is one of the first people to bring out the speech with the NWO, the New World Order. He gave that speech 11 years before 9/11, exactly. He gave that speech on 9/11 of 1990, 11 years before the September 11th attacks that happened on the 11th day of the year in the 11th state with the two, and it hit the two buildings that look like the giant 11, and the first flight to hit the towers was flight AA:11. A is the first letter, so a lot like 1111. So something super duper significant. Anyway, maybe I'll make a separate video on all of this, but I documented all kinds of stuff. Like they went to overtime with 107 points. King Charles in gematria equals 107. Overtime equals 107. And just the word earthquake equals 107. Stuff I've been documenting about. Lots of stuff with king symbolism. I went on to talk about Stephen King and how he's important to all of this. We even had Morgan Freeman recently in the news, and think about Morgan Freeman in the movie Shawshank Redemption, which is a Stephen King short story, right? And if you've been following my channel, I've talked a lot about the movie Stand By Me and the song Stand By Me being played at the royal wedding and how that's important. So we got Stand By Me, the Shawshank Redemption, a bunch of other stuff. And basically, I just noticed this pattern with the name Stephen. We got Stephen Curry, Stephen Kerr, Stephen Hawking died this year. At the basketball game of Game 1, they even, after there was a little fight or whatever, when the Cavs had 114 points and Golden State had 122. Keep in mind, Golden State equals 122 in gematria. But when they did that, they showed Steve Nash, right? Stephen Hawking. Remember earlier this season at the Kings game, they had the protests of the African-American Stephon Clark as well, right? So there's this big theme with the word Stephen that is going on that I documented about. And what's interesting about that is later that day, or the next day, I documented how CNN had these articles all about bee symbolism. They had something about the script spelling bee, and also Samantha Bee, and Samantha Bee talking about Ivanka Trump, all coded by the numbers. Maybe, like I said, maybe I'll make some separate videos. But the person who even called her out, her name was Huckabee. Let me find it here. Here we are, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, right? Sarah Huckabee calls on TBS to take action against what she said. Once again, more bee symbolism. And if you look up bees, you find out that in Egyptian culture, the bee was a symbol of royalty. So think about that. Royalty. And so I documented all this stuff. Once again, it's all connected back to king and just royal symbolism. And today what was interesting was, so earlier today I had a band gig last night, and I stayed up. I didn't even get home until about 3:34 in the morning, and then I had to get up early, and my girlfriend had to go to work at 11, so she went to work and I had to take care of our two kids, and I went up to my mom and dad's house, and because I thought my nephew was there, but he wasn't, so I just decided to come home, and I saw this girl that I work with walking down the street carrying like this giant bag of ice, and I didn't think much of it. I waved at her and went on with my day, and whatever. I got home, and literally, this says 17 minutes ago, so 17 minutes after I got home, I got a notification on Facebook that involved that same girl that I work with, and I thought, that's weird. I clicked on it because basically all it was she commented on somebody else's post about their kid that has light up shoes that light up, which makes absolutely no sense that I would get a notification, because I never liked that post. I never commented on that post. It doesn't make any sense why randomly they would tell me that she commented on this post. It doesn't make sense. A lot of times you would have to comment on it or like it or whatever else in order to be when other people comment on it. But I didn't. I have no idea what this post even is, anything. I didn't comment or whatsoever on this post, so it randomly tells me that she commented on this post, and I'm like, I just saw her just a few minutes ago, so I knew there was something significant about it. But what I noticed is the person's name, Cole Stevens, right? And I had just documented about the name Steven, and I just knew there was something significant about it. Like I said, I even documented Stephen Curry and Stephen King. There's something going on with this name Stephen. And moral of the story, when you look up the word Stephen, you find out that it comes from Saint Stephen, and the word actually means crown. It comes from Stephanos, meaning crown, right? Think about crown, royalty. What are the odds? King James is playing Stephen Curry. Stephen means crown. I mean, I don't even care who wins. It's all about this royal symbolism. That's what I've been saying for years now, ever since these two teams have been playing each other. Anyway, I also documented some other things that I've recently been mentioning, how we had Roseanne getting canceled on after the 231st episode, and Roseanne is a fat comedian, and I said how that is a big number in regards to the death of Ralphie May, a fat comedian who I talked about I thought would die in the next year, and then he did die in 2017. And I made a video about fat comedians and him on the 231st day of the year, and he died 231 days after his birthday of cardiac arrest. That equals 231. And I just noticed that Holly, what I call her at work, right, just her first name, it equals 231 in gematria. And her birthday is 12/4, 124. And that was the biggest number that I talked about with fat comedians. Even the video I made about Ralphie May possibly dying was 1 month and 24 days before he died. And, all kinds of fat comedian stuff was with the number 124. I can't even remember it all off the top of my head. I didn't really look back up, but I think Chris Farley equals 124. And John Belushi died on January 24th. And John Candy, I think, equals 124. There's a big number with fat comedians, all connected to 124. We even get the death of Kevin Meaney just after I made that video. A fat comedian, Kevin Meaney, equals 124 in gematria. So, just crazy that her birthday is 12/4, a lot like 124, and her first name even has this connection to 231. And in the mix of things, I talked about how a long time ago I read this book by Stephen King, and it came out on 11/8/11 even, right? 11/8/11. 11 times 8 is 88. That's what I talked about years ago. Before I really knew a whole lot about gematria, I was just talking about numerology, and 88 is this number about time travel. And this whole book, 11/22/63, is about this guy who can time travel, and he's trying to stop the assassination of JFK. So it was all about the number 88. Think about Back to the Future, 88, the speed for time travel. So anyway, I decided to find this TV series that they had brought back, and I looked it up, and I was like, I want to watch this TV series. Maybe there's some clues in this TV series that I'm not figuring out from the book. And right away, when I started watching this TV series today, I noticed that in the intro theme, the theme song, they have everything is connected by this red string. And, that is exactly what I have been talking about. In the TV show called Touch, where this kid can see the mathematical world that we're living in, and the whole point is, in the very beginning episode, he talks about how there's an ancient Chinese belief that everything is connected through this red string of fate. The gods tied a string on every person's ankle, and everything is connected. And his job is to understand basically the mathematics of how it all works, and he can make people touch at certain times to make things better or, possibly worse, which I've been saying. There's people who understand this code that we live in, So what are the odds? It's about time travel, and it starts off with the red string. There's also the red string of Kabbalah. Kabbalah is the belief. Sorry, man. Kabbalah is the Jewish mysticism that believes that God created the world by merging the letter with the number, right? So what are the odds that they put this red string in here, just like the TV show called Touch? That's all about the same thing. And Kabbalah is exactly what is going on, exactly what I've been saying. I also put out that Holly in gematria equals 25 and 107. But 25, just like the word time, right? Time travel. The word time also equals 144 in Jewish gematria, which is this big number I've been talking about in regards to political assassination, and also JFK dying 144 days after meeting the Pope. Donald Trump met the Pope on the 144th day of the year, and much, much more. There's even 1,440 minutes in a day, reminding us of 140. Time travel is all about the number 88, right? The four circles made up of 360 degrees. 360 times 4, 1,440, right? So Trump and Pence, they both have gematria the same as time. A lot of stuff that's going back to time. I even redocumented about LeBron James and how he's red string equals the same as LeBron James. And then when the actual show starts on 11/22/63, it brings up this guy, and he says that the worst night of his life was Halloween, and that's where all the story goes. And a big piece in this book and in this TV series, as he's trying to stop this guy's family from being murdered on Halloween night. And think about that in regards to LeBron James and the Halloween costumes that I documented. Halloween night. What else is interesting is that this TV series, the date when they time travel, it goes back to 10/21 of the year 1960, but in the book, it goes back to 9/9 of 58 every time. And what's interesting about this 10/21 date is that it's 10 days before Halloween. And if you've been following my channel, I've been saying how 10 days before is really important to the JFK assassination and much, much more. But Donald Trump released the JFK files 10 days before 144 days after his birthday, right? So it was 134 days after his birthday, but 10 days before 144, that big number around political assassination. And also, in regards to Back to the Future, 10/21 is the day of, it's Back to the Future Day. The day that they went to in 2015. Think about that yet again, in regards to time, right? That's why in this TV series they changed it to 10/21, a significant day. And, even more, I had some weird synchronicity. As I was writing up this blog post, I put my son down in the bouncer thing, and I rigged him up a bottle, and I finally got back on the internet, and I was trying to watch this TV show on my computer, and I got on my phone on the internet, and I put up Facebook in, and the first thing that came up was this little video of this guy flirting, or just saying stupid pickup lines, but his name's Steven. And I'm like, oh, once again, there's something with this name Steven, and that's why I looked up Steven, what the name Steven meant, and then I found out that it meant crown. And I talked about the Austin bomber and how it was connected to Stone Cold Steve Austin, right? And Austin, Texas is named after Stephen Austin, who is the father of Texas and whatnot. So like I said, I'm making all this short. I wanted to make like longer videos or just separate videos, but I'm just trying to recap some of the stuff. You can come look at my blog in regards to what I documented and why it makes more sense. But I noticed today we also had this article about Kim Jong-un and where he's going to stay because Donald Trump brought back their summit meeting, right, in Singapore. And this article was about how where Kim Jong-un was going to stay at a hotel and who was going to pay for it. And, I documented a whole bunch of stuff about this as well. Go skip over that. But I started thinking in regards to the TV show 11/22/63, that TV series stars James Franco, this guy right here. And I was like, James Franco, he's also in that movie called The Interview, where he's like the TV host, and the whole point is he's going to interview Kim Jong-un. And then the CIA comes in and they want him to assassinate Kim Jong-un. So I'm thinking, what are the odds that it's synced up to James Franco in this movie about, it's also synced up to North Korea, right? Kim Jong-un. And remember all the stuff with this movie, like before it released, they had to go back and re-edit it because North Korea they were threatening that they were going to do something if this movie released because it was all about the assassination of, or trying to kill Kim Jong-un. And think about it too, Seth Rogen, he's not really fat anymore, but he was known as a fat comedian, right? Think about Roseanne getting canceled on the anniversary of JFK's birthday, 5/29. I have a video on that I'll leave in the description, but significant to that. But anyway, Kim Jong-un does die in this movie. He dies in the helicopter at the end of the movie, and it just reminds me of Donald Trump saying he was Batman at the Iowa State Fair. Right around the same time we had Morgan Freeman's granddaughter who died, and they showed him and her at the Batman premiere. Think about Morgan Freeman being back in the news. Then a week later we had the death of Batgirl, Yvonne Craig, and the guy who dressed up like Batman and went around to hospitals. And there was one other thing in regards to Batman around that same time in 2000. I think it was 2015. So it might have been 2016, but just reminds me of that, the helicopter stuff. In regards to wrestling, we had Shane McMahon, who was in the helicopter crash. WWE equals 51. Helicopter equals 51. Batman equals 51. That's why Donald Trump said, he was Batman in the helicopter at the Iowa State Fair. So anyway, I looked up James Franco, and I noticed his birthday was 1 month, 24 days before the day that Trump and Kim Jong-un are going to meet. In 1 month, 24 days, that's the big number around fat comedians. Yet again, 124. And also with the end date, it's 125. And the word North Korea equals 125. And I pointed out Kim Jong-un equals 42. And 48 in reverse reduced. If you're out James Franco, it equals 42. If you're out Seth Rogen, it equals 48. And the title of that movie, The Interview, equals 68, just like Donald John Trump. Just like Pope Francis, just like Barack Obama, just like Prince Charles. It's a big number with 9/11. That's why Barbara Bush died. Her birthday was on 6/8. It's the 159th day of the year. Donald Trump equals 159 in reverse, So this big number. So something I should have said at the very beginning of the video, and hopefully you're still listening. But this is the biggest piece that I've found out of all of these connections. So I was thinking, what is the connection between the JFK assassination and this day that Donald Trump is going to meet Kim Jong-un? And I went from that day to the anniversary of JFK dying, 11/22/63, and it just happens to be 5 months and 10 days before. And this is a big number that I've been documenting about with Korea. Korea equals 510. Peace Summit equals 510. The original date that Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un agreed to this meeting was on May 10th, 510. Moon Jae-in, the president of South Korea, became the president on 510. Kim Jong-un murdered his brother in Malaysia and last year, and his brother's birthday was on 5/10. And think about it, Malaysia, right next to Singapore. Singapore used to be part of Malaysia. June 12th also is the 163rd day of the year, and this is 163 days before the anniversary of JFK being assassinated. But the kicker is that John Kennedy, JFK's name, John Kennedy, equals 510 in satanic gematria. What are the odds? John Kennedy, 510, Korea, 510, Peace Summit. They announced the Peace Summit on 510, Moon Jae-in, president on 510. You know, also, the word basketball equals 510. And think about Dennis Rodman going to North Korea, right? Dennis Rodman goes to North Korea doing basketball diplomacy. Basketball equals 510, just like Korea. Now, what are the odds? There's something really synced up with North Korea connected to the JFK assassination, especially when you got James Franco, the star of the movie about the JFK assassination, and then he's also in the movie The Interview, where he's supposed to interview Kim Jong-un, right? And better yet, John Kennedy in that's in satanic in the small and the big way. He equals 53 and 125, identical to North Korea. And the place they're supposedly going to be meeting at, Kim Jong-un and Donald Trump, is at the Capella Resort. And look at the location. One, the Knolls, Sentosa Island, Singapore. Think about the Knolls in regards to JFK and the grassy knolls. Also, maybe they won't meet here, but this is what the CNN article said today. What's interesting, Capella Resort. Capella reminds me a lot of the basketball player Clint Capella, who is from Switzerland, and that is where Kim Jong-un went to school when he was younger. He went to Switzerland, so he has a big tie to Switzerland. This meeting is going to take place, maybe, that's what they said in the article, at Capella Resort, Singapore. Just Clint Capella should be in the NBA Finals, but they had to let the Warriors move on. Lots of just Texas coding, Even thinking about like Barbara Bush, her name equals 204, just like Houston Astros. And, she died in Houston. So, like I said, I've been following this Houston theme, seemingly connected to the Rockets like crazy, but the Astros did win the World Series last year. Possibly they'll be in the World Series again this year. I don't know. I have to keep looking up more because I'm trying to figure out where I went wrong and what all of the coding and purpose is, but just interesting. And all of us too. There was other stories, and there's been lots of stories in Texas this year. And Stephen Austin, the father of Texas. We even had a story not just recently about a plane crash in Honduras. The plane was leaving Austin, Texas, and the big story was that the president of Easy Corp was on board, but he survived. But story about the president. Think about Michigan being in the college basketball championship, and the big story was still about Austin Hatch, where he was in 2 plane crashes. Austin, and think about Singapore, which is in the Malaysian area, and the missing Malaysian airline that I've mentioned how it was connected to Donald Trump, and there's a big Seattle connection in regards to Boeing. The first Air Force One was actually called Columbine 2, reminding us of the school shooting stuff and Marilyn Manson. That was all about Marilyn Manson had this song called Coma White, where he reenacted the JFK assassination. And then Marilyn Manson came back after hurting his leg on 10 days after the JFK files were released. There's a whole lot of stuff going on with it. I'll leave some links in the description. You got to follow what I've been saying because it's just too much to re-explain. This video is already really long, and I haven't even scratched the surface of what I really want to talk about. But what are the odds? Right here. This is the main point I made this video. The JFK assassination 5 months and 10 days after the day that Kim Jong-un and Trump are going to meet. John Kennedy equals 510. Korea equals 510. Peace Summit 510. They plan this meeting on 510. You know, something. There's something big going on with it. I don't know if one of these guys are going to get assassinated or if a plane is going to go missing like I have previously talked about, or what's going on with it. But they got something big that is really coded to this meeting, and it is connected to the JFK assassination. So, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out, but all of these things that are seemingly unrelated are still, they all just keep coming back. Fat comedians. The reason I'm really sure I was supposed to see fat comedians was because Seth Rogen, a fat comedian, connected to this 11/22/63 TV series with James Franco. So, I also put it here, Lee Harvey Oswald. Think about all the flood symbolism that I've been mentioning again, how they brought back the flood symbolism. Lee Harvey Oswald. Think about Hurricane Harvey and the flooding in Houston. Lee Oswald equals 411, just like the word assassin. How fitting for him to be blamed for the JFK assassination. Also, the whole synchronicity with everything that I talked about in regards to what was going on with this when I noticed the Stephen thing was because last night it was raining like crazy and I went to Council Bluffs and they had road construction and all of a sudden, like I was behind a few cars and all of a sudden the road was just covered with water and I drove through this road and I barely made it through. My power steering went out and the battery light came on and I had to pull into the Taco Bell parking lot and sit there, and then my car started working again. So like I drove through a flood. I've been talking about all this flood symbolism and how it's connected. Even, you know what, I'll just keep talking. Even recently, we had the stupid televangelist story. This guy asked for $54 million. You know, his name equals the same as 54 million even, but does it not remind you of Joel Osteen, who was from Houston? When we had the Houston flood, Joel Osteen equals 150, just like World Series. And then the Astros went to the World Series just after, Matt Harvey, the first pitcher to pitch in Houston after Hurricane Harvey. But Joel Osteen equals 150, World Series equals 150. The biblical flood lasted for 150 days. If you've been following what I've been saying it's connected to, there's something with New Orleans and also with Houston in regards to Chris Paul, right? The basketball player for the Houston Rockets who formerly played for New Orleans. He went, he goes to Houston just before or right around the same time of the Houston floods, and then his first year in the NBA is when they had Hurricane Katrina, when New Orleans got flooded and whatnot. Then we get this story about this New Orleans preacher, right? And it's synced up to Joel Osteen, the preacher from Houston. We even got another story about some famous lady who owned a restaurant in New Orleans. So, and she died. Her name was Eagle 64 and died 6 months, 4 days after her birthday. Yet again, just every single day we get stories like this in the mainstream media. I'm going to end the video here. I really have to go to bed. I got to get up in a few hours to go to work. And maybe I'll make some separate videos and it'll make more sense. Maybe I'll make a shorter video explaining the JFK symbolism, but there's no way. All them 510s and John Kennedy equals 510. Even basketball equals 510. And Kim Jong-un loves basketball. We have the NBA Finals going on right around the same time that Donald Trump's supposedly going to go meet the leader of North Korea. And think about Donald Trump as well. His birth year is synced up to the NBA Finals. So this year will be the 72nd season of the NBA, and Donald Trump will turn 72 years old. So who knows? Leaving it at that. Peace.